I met a lovely British man. I was over here partying with some London friends, and you know, us addicts. He's the one. And I got arrested for the second time driving drunk, and they threw me in the tank with the cufflinks on. The pre-story that to answer your question, that I knew if these kids are only going to get one childhood, I wanted to make sure it was at least a good one.
Yeah.
And then, every single funeral, I can tell when the drunk in the family walks in because their shame comes with them, or the drug addict, or whatever.
Yo, what's happening, people? I want to welcome you to Flip the Script podcast show. My name is Sol and I am the host. So, on this show, you'll get the opportunity to listen to some inspiring people talking about real, honest, heartfelt, no holds barred transformation stories. We get to hear from ex-drug users, reformed criminals, all sharing their personal stories and how they manage not only to turn their lives around, but now are helping others to do the same. We also get to hear from courageous men and women sharing their experience of surviving high-level trauma and what they are doing or done to start that much-needed healing process. Right, welcome to Flip the Script podcast show. My name is Sol, I am the host, as some people know and some people won't. So this show is about people coming along and sharing their experiences, their transformation stories, and also what they're doing now and where they come from. So today I am very fortunate to have a young lady called Lizzy who's currently living in London, who is a nanny stroke funeral verger, if I don't know if I got this right, and a stand-up comedian. But you know what? She's going to tell you exactly what she does, because I'm a little bit confused with the funeral verger, but you're going to explain it anyway.
Oh, good. So am I.
Okay. So, Lizzy, thank you for coming on, man. It's really good to see you. I know that's not what you did prior, probably. So that's why you're here. You're obviously going to be here talking about your story. So tell us a little bit about yourself anyway, Liz.
Okay. Thanks for asking me, first of all. For those of you who don't know, this is 9:30 in the morning, so you're going to see my face disappear into a vat of coffee every once in a while. Drug of choice. Some things never change.
Yeah.
Except that I'm sober. I'm clean and sober. First things first. I build on that. I was born outside of Chicago in a little town in the burbs called Lake Forest, Illinois. And if you said that in Chicago, people would go, "Oh, it must be nice," but not that accent. I'm just putting it on. "Oh, it must be nice." And I go, "I don't know. I'm just a kid. I'm 5. What are you talking about?" And then my dad retired and moved us all to Florida when I was 7, youngest of 6 kids. So I grew up in Clearwater Beach, Florida, which was cool, man. Great childhood, goofing around on the end of the pier and the pool and the dock, and going to a Catholic school, Catholic grade school, Catholic high school, and then art school. Dun, dun, dun. And that's pretty much where the wheels fell off. Thank you, God. But I met a lovely British man. I was over here partying with some London friends, and us addicts. He's the one. Yeah, he was. And so I adopted him, held him captive, brought him back to Florida, which he was delighted. We got married because it looked good for mom and dad, and they were Catholic and everything. So we got married because I am Catholic. I like to stay and suffer. So we stayed married for 15 years. And then I got sober and learned how to divorce his ass. So that was even better. That was a celebration as well. We had a divorce party. It was great.
Okay.
So we learn, we live, we move on, And I've been in London for 20 years, raising my kids. After that divorce in 2009, I would like to tell you that, I missed him taking the garbage out. I missed our deep and meaningful talks at 10 o'clock at night, but none of that should ever happen anyway. So I just got on doing with what I always did, which is go to my meetings, hang tight, talk to my sponsor, cry a lot, feel your feelings, even if it gets ugly cry all day long if you have to. Let it out. Don't keep it in. And I've raised my babies, who are now 25, 22, and 14. And my son passed away, would have been 18 this year. So he's in heaven, man. He's decking out the condo because I'm down here working for the upgrades.
Oh, wow. So I didn't even know that you had a son that passed away, Lizzie. So that's something, yeah, sorry to hear,
Something
man.
we could totally go to, Saul. Yeah. I mean, I'm an open book, but I went to my first UK baby. I went to King's College Hospital to give birth to Murphy. I was full term and they botched the delivery. So they left me in utero for 17 hours. My uterus ruptured and he was suffocated in my stomach cavity, where they rushed me and him into surgery. I almost died and he did, sadly. So I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It was quite a thing to wake up at the time, 9 years sober, and just not want to be here. And I don't think
Wow.
anybody's telling the truth if they tell you in their recovery, not before, but in recovery, or maybe before, I don't know, that they've played the whole life and death game in their head. And I just kept showing up, and I kept going to meetings and do the same thing, ugly cry, pray for help, and know that it gets better, and it does. So
When so you say when it does
I
get
threw a
better,
lot at
when
you just there, didn't I?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, when does it get better though? When something like that happens, like it's lost, I've always heard that it never just gets, but you just learn to manage it better. That's all. Is that correct?
You do. And I like the metaphor of you walk around with bricks in your pocket and then you reach down and then there's one brick and then you reach down and there's a sponge and you're walking lighter and every once in a while you reach down and touch that sponge on purpose to know that you're connected to the person that you love so much and that you lost. And I like that. I like that, he's always with me. I can't tell you, when it goes because everybody's different, but I can tell you that they're always with you, but in a much different way, not in a sad, grieving way, but in a for me, for a cheerleader in heaven kind of a way. I'm very connected.
Wow.
Like a lot of moms have kids, around their ankles and they're bringing them to school for the first time. They're saying goodbye at nursery. And they know, even though they don't see that kid all day like they used to, or the little toddler, they know they're okay. They know they're being looked after. And that's the feeling that I have about Murphy. When I sadly had
Mm.
to say goodbye, the bravest thing I ever did in recovery was in hospital say, listen, go. If this body isn't for you and it's not going to work, I love you and I'll see you later. I'll see you on the other side when it's my turn.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
I had 9 years and a husband who didn't want to be there. It's one of those things in life. It's the making of you or the breaking of you, and no malice towards him. He just couldn't handle, and
Mm.
no judgment on that at all. So,
Wow.
yeah. So things got pretty serious real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, and you was 9 years sober at the time. So
I was
yeah.
nine
So
years sober. I was my first UK baby. I was walking around Southeast London going, what the hell? Like, where am I? What's going on? My family, my brother, my mom came down for like 3 days and they were like, well, you've got this. So we're going to go home. And I was like, oh, okay. And they left. And I was sort of like, now what? Many of my growth spurts look like that in my story. It's like, now what? I'm at the crossroads. I don't know. And that's why you don't get the answers. And that's when the faith pops in because you just don't have a clue and you're just going to wing it. And if you
just
have to start your day over a million times, then that's what you do.
yeah, like you said, you just got to plug in and have that faith in minute at a
Faith that
time,
you don't
day at a
even know you
time,
have.
whatever Yeah, I get you. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're in sobriety, you're in recovery. So you said that you moved over from the States,
Uh-huh.
and you met your man, your British man, you adopted him, and you was not in recovery at the time, was you? Is that correct? You said that you was
I was
no.
just new in. When they say don't do anything big your first years, I got pulled over by the Popo, first of all, on International Drive twice. And they suggested that I not drive like this.
Okay,
One line, two lines.
and was that in
So they
America? You
suggest,
mean?
hey, yeah, you may
Okay,
wanna. This is before Ubers, kids. This is before cell phones. This
okay,
is in 1994, and I got arrested for the second time driving drunk, and they threw me in the tank with the cufflinks on, which I thought I was pretty clever because I could squeeze my hand out of the cufflinks, right, and I could slip them out. And I was going, "Hey, look at you're not a very good officer, are you?" And they're like, "Dumbass." So then they took my arms and wrapped them behind my back and put my handcuffs on behind my back, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
they say that some people. What's that saying? There's a saying, isn't there, about when I have a drink, I end up in handcuffs. So it seemed like
Yeah,
yeah.
I like to say that when I drink, the cops come because it jumps right to the, you know,
So
like I remember ordering a chocolate cake and the guy was like,
mm,
"Would you like orange liqueur?" And I was like, "Nah, man. When you're in sobriety and you just
yeah,
early sobriety, you just need that chocolate wedge of door chunk of, and I
Yeah.
was like, nah. And he was like, are you, and I go, I'm allergic, man. I'm allergic to alcohol. I can't have it. And he goes, what do you mean? Like you break out in spots? You break out? I go, like the
Mm.
cops come, okay? Give me my fucking cake.
Yeah. I get you. I understand that. So
Yeah.
going back a little bit, growing up, so
Shoot.
obviously there was a problem with alcohol for you. So tell me a little bit of time. Tell me a little bit. Explain a little bit about how your days were when you was drinking. For you to obviously you broke up in handcuffs, but it had to. There was obviously a progression. So talk a little bit
Sure.
about that. Talk about your
Okay,
drinking days and.
so yeah, I mean, Reader's Digest, because nobody
Mm,
wants to watch this podcast till they die. I basically started, drinking when I was 15. Um, the shift happened. I was, I thought I was the funniest, coolest person in the room. And I had my first boyfriend, and he was like, "You kind of change a little bit when you drink." And I'm like, "I know, it's great, right?" He was like, "No, you get kind of mean." And I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, you go from like being really funny to being like kind of bitchy." And I was like, "How very dare you?" Okay, so you're telling me the truth, so you got to go, right? So jumped his ass and kept the Miller High Life on ice, and drank like as they say on my friends drank. I powered down the brewskis. I don't think I was on. I'm not one of those that join the argument, drink or drugs, because to me, ethanol isn't something people
mm,
go, hey kids, let's all get together and grab some ethanol. Like ethanol is a
mm.
drug to me, so drink's a drug. So I don't see any
Yeah.
separation between the two. Um, but yeah, so I started smoking weed in college and did coke in college. And this is my whole thing was pretty much, what are you addicted to? Like, why? What do you got? Can I have some more?
Everything.
I don't
Yeah.
care if it's, weed or Oreos or booze or what do you got? I just didn't want to feel. I wanted to push those feelings down, party hardy, and get on with it. So that's what I did. But unfortunately, I thought part of that party was getting behind the wheel of a car on a Campbell Causeway from Clearwater to Tampa, and the police said not so much. So
Wow.
I had to call my parents. Oh, really annoyed. Come bail me out. And they were like, no.
Was that
First
the
time,
first
okay.
time?
Second time,
Was that the
no.
was that the first time you got arrested? And was that the actual first,
Two.
second, two times? Okay.
Two. So you get in Florida, you get put into rehab, outpatient rehab, and you show
Okay.
up 15 minutes before. And if you don't show up 15 minutes before, they lock the door and you go to jail. Like, woo, the sheriff
Okay.
comes. Bye now, stupid ass. You're going back in. So I didn't want that to happen. So it was me in 94. I put it down because I signed a document.
Wow.
It was so scary. I had to sign a document promising the state of Florida I was never going to drink again. Like I was like, yeah, right. Like that's going to happen, and signed it and turned it in at my rehab facility, and told them I would not approach my vehicle unless I'd been given the driver's license, right? Because they take everything from you and say, let's see if you can go to meetings. You can do 12 weeks of meetings. You can do outpatient rehab. You can live your life, or we take over from there if you don't show up.
Wow. And so what did you do the meeting? So you've done the 12 weeks of meetings and
Well, I was lucky that I lived right behind Disney World in Orlando. So, don't do anything big your first year. So I got married, bought a house, had a baby. Like, that
yeah.
shit got real. Then I was like running to the rooms going, why am I having all these feelings? Oh, I don't want. And they were like, well, because that's life. And I was like, don't
Mm.
piss me off. And they were like, look down at your feet. And I was like, seriously, dude? He's like, look down at your feet. And I looked down at my feet and he goes, that's exactly where you're supposed to be.
Wow.
And I'm like, do you get off telling people this? Tedious
It's
motherfucker.
funny though, because there is some of the sayings they have, yeah, is just like they're really simple, yeah, but they do like kind of hit home. Do you know what
Oh,
I
I
mean?
hold
Really
on to them
simple,
today.
yeah. And some of the little ones, I just like I live by some of them. Like now, at first they look really cringy, come on, stop it, man. But now it's like some of them, like I hold them dearly to my heart. Like they're like I give them away. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I don't
look,
tell
I
people to
know,
look at their feet. I don't give that one away, but this guy was
yeah.
really helpful. He was like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. He taught me acceptance that
There you
day, and
go.
I wasn't accepting anything. I was in a whirlwind of emotions. And he said, well, that's the good news. You get your emotions back. And he never said anything about the bad news. I heard that later.
Uh, yeah, we get our emotions back.
Still the
So
good news. Trust me.
when would you say the change happened for you within recovery? Because look, listen, we can sit here and we can all talk about, yeah, we got into the meetings and we at first I know a lot of it is just like you just following other people, you're fake it to make it, whatever. When
Sure.
did the real, I say surrender, or the actual place where you thought, you know what, maybe this stuff does really work, or this stuff is really
Yeah.
helping? When did that
I
happen for you,
totally hear you.
Liz?
I know exactly the spot. I was going to these meetings at Friends of Bill W. At
Mm,
Doubletree Resorts behind Disney World, and I couldn't wait to get all my signatures. I got all my signatures, turned it in, got my license back, and I went back to the gal who said that she would temporarily sponsor me. And she said, I'm going to this meeting at 3, and I wanted to go, me, like, the whole song of
mm,
It's All About Me. I think I remember your name, but I'm not sure. And I don't care because it's me. And I
mm.
went to this meeting and I said, hey, I got my license back. I got my signatures. And thank you for your time. I think what you people do here is amazing. I think, like egocentric. So like I was so like just doing my swan song, and she was like, look, I gotta get in there. The meeting starts in a minute. I can give you a suggestion though. Why don't you come in and then decide if you don't want to come back anymore after the meeting? Because it's your life. And I was like, oh, they do that here. She's not going to make me stay. She's not all invested in whether I drink or not, or whether I relapse or not. And
Mm.
I said, well, what if I relapse? Like, oh, what if I relapse? And she goes, well, you can do that. She said it's not required. It's not a requirement of AA to relapse to stay in. She goes, you may not. That's your gig, man. She goes, but I would suggest you don't make any big life decisions until after the meeting. And that's what I remember. I stood outside. She went in. There was nobody pulling me in there in handcuffs. And it was up to me. And I thought, oh, fuck these patronizing. Everything they say is sewn onto a pillow. These fucking people. And then I found myself walking in and sitting down and just crying my eyes out because I didn't have the answer. And I don't and I was such a control freak then that I didn't like not having the answer. And they had something that I couldn't put my finger on. And so I thought, okay, you folks, you need me back here so bad. I'll show up. I'll show up for your sake. And they're like, no, thanks for blessing us with your ego, but maybe just show up for yours. So I couldn't tell you at that moment when I walked out of that meeting whether I was going to get another DUI, whether I was going to drink again, whether I was going to screw up the whole husband, house, baby thing. Like I just didn't know, but I knew that something in there did.
Bless you.
Something in
And
that room had the answer.
and I think what you said there, sometimes it just happens, and it you just don't, and then you look back at it in hindsight, think, yeah, that was the moment. I mean, I think for
Yeah.
me,
And I come from a background
mm,
with a lot of sort of finger pointing and shame and blame and,
mm,
the nicest smiling assassins you ever met. But there's one thing they all agreed on, and that's that I was the black sheep of the family and I was the fuck up. And this is the first time I've been in a group of people where they go, well,
you're
no, you're
not,
not. Just show up and
no,
you have today, right? Like I could never tell you today, Sal, I'm never going to have another beer. I'm never going to not fuck it up. But I can
mm,
tell you that, I'm going to hand it over today and see what happens. That's why we're
amazing,
warriors, because we're faith.
yeah,
We're warriors on faith. We go, I don't have a clue. The one person who pretends to have the answers to everything, I don't know. But
yeah.
I know a place that does.
Yeah, it's funny though, isn't it? Because you get it, you get into these kind of form of recovery and sobriety, and you think you start to think you start to think, I actually know now. Then you think, I don't know fucking nothing.
I got a clue. Rebel
Got
without
a
a
clue.
clue. If somebody
Just when
said
you
go
thought, yeah,
left, I'd go right, Sam?
yeah,
And they
yeah,
go, why are you going
definitely,
right? I go, I don't know. Some fucker said go left. So I'm like, whatever.
yeah, definitely. So, young woman
Yes.
in recovery, in doing AA, found some form of structure, I say routine and some support, and you're a mum. Is that right? Is that correct? You said you was a mum and you had a house. And what made you come over? Because I think before we were speaking, and you didn't say it on the show, but we had a little chat before,
Uh,
and you spoke about you went to Australia for a while as well. So what happened there? Tell me a little bit
I
about
like
your
I
journey.
like I liked exporting myself to the imports, man. I
Okay.
exported myself to the import beers. So, Rebel Without a Clue and a newly discovered trust fund. Dun dun dun. My
Oh
dad
wow.
released the funds to us when I was 24, and so I'm like, I was engaged to this guy who ripped me off, stole a bunch of jewelry, and my sister said, with that aside, that's going to pass. What do you want to do with your life? And I was like, well, there's a nanny college in Australia. I really want to go. So she was like, well, then do it. Do it now while you're young. She had kids at the time. She's like, do it now while you're young and you're not married, you don't have kids. So I got to sow my oats in Brisbane. I lived in Brisbane for 2.5 years. I lived in Caracas, Venezuela for a year with a very good friend of mine from art school. And yeah, I woke up all sorts of places till my illness progressed, right? And then I was just coming to. I wasn't like waking up anymore. That happened pretty quick, actually. And I used to wake up in hotel rooms and go like they would speak Spanish. I didn't know if I was in Miami or if I was in Venezuela. So I would call like concierge and go, "So, what would you suggest for activities today?" And fake my way out after I drained the minibar and see what they
Yeah.
said, so I could figure out if I needed to fly home or if I could actually drive home, go out and try and figure out what the hell I do with the car.
Wow. Wow.
That was all normal.
Um,
We normalize toxicity, don't we? We normalize
oh,
addiction. We're
oh,
like, don't
definitely.
everybody? I'm just partying,
Yes.
man. I'm just 24. I'm
Massive.
partying.
Yeah. Some would call it massive denial, isn't it? It's too, if we knew what we was doing, and then obviously we wouldn't be doing it, I suppose, in some way.
Yeah, but
Or
the
we would be
alcoholics
doing it.
ego. It's
Yeah.
now I call lifestyles of the rich and famous. But I blew through that. I think it was like $275,000 that my
Wow.
dad, kindly put in my trust fund for years. I blew through that in 2 years. Just
Wow.
ego, coke, and flights. Yeah, man.
Wow.
And a lot of
Would you
beer.
say you had a good party in the 2.5 years?
I'm told that I did. I didn't remember any of it. I'm told it
Yeah.
was a blast.
Yeah.
No,
Can you imagine?
some shit was scary. Some stuff I can remember because adrenaline kicked in and I put myself in, we're risk takers, aren't we? We think we're
Yeah.
being really cool, but actually we're putting ourselves in life and death situations. I remember being in Boston and visiting friends and in Cambridge and having a hotel room. We were partying down in the lobby and they were like, okay, well, your friends need to go. These guys are getting really rowdy. They're Notre Dame fans.
Yeah.
And that's not unique or anything. They just were. And I only remember that because one had a tattoo on his arm. And I was like, he's like, they got to go. They can't party here after 12, after midnight. So I was like, well, could they if they were guests of the hotel? So she was like, well, I guess. Like, what are you doing? So I went, slam, put my credit card on the counter when I was Mary Elizabeth MasterCard, mastering the gift of losing all your dough. And I was like, get them rooms then. So they all got rooms, but they all came up to my room, blocked the door, and there was like a whole gang rape thing that was going to happen. And I
Wow.
managed to go, okay, hey, look it, I'm down. I'm up for it. Just let me get to the bathroom first. And they were like, okay. So I slid into the bathroom, blocked the bathroom door with the hotel room door, and hauled ass back downstairs and hid in concierge. And they were like, well, what did you think was going to happen? And I was like, I did it.
Wow.
So those guys all took off, and I got a very hefty bill the next day. So what's the
Bless you.
cost of saving my life? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Money comes, money goes. I've had loads. I've been broke. It doesn't make you who you are, but it doesn't make you who you aren't either.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
Yes.
partying, Australia, South
Party hard, die
America,
young.
wherever,
Yeah.
and then you landed in the UK at some point, the Her Majesty's land. So tell me, what was it like
Yes.
for you to what was it like to be in the UK, being you was a parent, is that right? Is that correct? At the time?
I had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old at
Yeah,
that point.
yeah,
I think I had 7 years sober. And it wasn't like, 7 years sober. It was like, 7 years sober, everything's
yeah.
fine. It was
Everything
that
through
kind of
gritted
sobriety,
teeth.
right?
Yeah,
I was trying to rock that shit. I was working for a hotel. I was working for Marriott Vacation Resorts, the hotel industry in Orlando. So those guys had the ethics of like used car salesmen with loads of money. They were some pretty dangerous crew, making it look all shiny. And I got enough years there, and I thought I got a 5-year plan. I'm going to try and get to London because my husband was British. He was from Essex, and
from
but I had been to
Essex.
London before we met. Yes,
Oh
Clacton,
wow,
Holland on Sea, or where his parents live.
Clacton on Sea. I know Clacton on
On
Sea.
Norman
Yeah.
Road, if you want to go by and throw
Okay.
something at their window. No, I'm just kidding. Feel free.
Okay.
In love. And so, yeah, so I was like from Orlando, Florida, to taking a baby to a little cottage, in Orlando, in Clacton and Highland on Sea. It was like Why are
That
the
is a
bathrooms so small? Why do you like it was a big culture shock. So coming to London was a little less of a culture shock. It was busy. I'd been here before. I had always loved it. I love Londoners. I'm very proud to be one. Every time it's cold and someone in Southeast London puts a little mitten that they found on the ground on a spike, I know I'm home,
mm,
especially if it's Brixton, man. So
wow. Is that
I'm
where you
I'm
live
in
at the
Herne
moment?
Hill.
Herne Hill.
Huh?
Okay. Are you in Herne Hill at the
Yeah, I'm
moment?
right next
Okay.
to I'm in
Yeah.
between Brixton Village and Peckham Springs, darling. Remember that Peckham Springs
Yeah.
water when Del Boy was
Yeah.
selling water out of his tap
Yeah.
for
I
a pound?
remember.
I think he was onto
Yeah.
something.
Great episode. Great episode.
Yeah, that's my fave. And so, like, inspired by the comedians here because
Mm.
they're just so much smarter, you know.
So I was going to get to that. So you came over here. So you're also a stand-up comedian. Obviously, I can hear the way your whole character bursts of
Oh,
humor.
thank you.
Um, what made you start doing actually stand-up? I mean, was it over in the UK? Did you because that's like a
Yes, in at the Brixton Ritzy in
wow. Okay.
recovery, I'd picked up my 20-year sobriety chip.
Wow.
And I said, if we're not a glum lot, it was after my divorce, after everything, I'd, been raising the kids on my own. So I was doing lockdown way before lockdown was cool. I was doing
Okay.
dishes and laundry and things are just, I'm not gonna say are difficult. I'm not one of those broads who ever goes, oh, I'm a single mother. Oh, like, no, it was a gift. I love my kids. I chose to have them. I did timing method to meet them. They're amazing recovery kids. But I just wanted to do something that was just for me and had done drunken off my ass stand up in Australia. Like I literally would do like the comedy roll off the stage so everybody would be
Mm,
laughing and I could shoot back to the Prince Edward pub and get the last stool on the end
mm.
and continue my party for the night. And everybody would, and I'd wait for the adulation. We'd go, oh my God, you were so funny. I can't believe you didn't hurt yourself. I just throw myself off the stage just so I could get pissier. Anyway, so I thought, you know what? The scariest thing, face the fear and do it anyway, right? So the scariest thing would be to stand up there and do some stand up. And I expected completely to bomb. And in fact, there was a friend of mine in recovery who's a complete goth and she's really, really dark and she like very rarely laughs and she takes things on in big bucket loads. So I thought I'm gonna bring this broad with me. And if she laughs, then I'm good. Like that was
Yeah.
my only goal.
Good
So
indicator.
yeah, good indicator. If I can crack a smile on this broad,
Yeah.
then I'm golden. And I did my little it was supposed to be a 5-minute gig. I stretched it to 10. Would you believe? I kept
Wow.
talking. And they said, oh my God. And everybody went nuts. Please come back. You were amazing. We'd like you to feature. Have you ever done concerts? I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Wow.
And then you want to hear the word feature because that means they're gonna pay you. Feature is a good word. So I was like, cool. So I got like free movie tickets. I got 30 quid to go to Iceland next door and get some frozen pizzas for the kids. It was fucking cool, man.
Wow.
And that's how I
Wow.
broke into the whole thing and kept going and
Has it
get
always been
active.
a calling for you though? Has it always been a calling for you though to do comedy, or is it just something that you stumbled into?
I've
Do you
just
think?
always been inspired by people who don't take themselves too seriously, especially in
Okay.
recovery. I mean, I'm one of those that, don't go to Thailand and find your Zen or go. I don't care. I'm not attached, but I'll give you a freebie, which is the key to enlightenment is just to lighten the fuck up. Like laugh at yourself first and be kind
Yeah.
to yourself first. And if I don't want to go see a comedian who's like looking at their notes and stressing out and waiting to see if the joke's gonna land, I want to see somebody up there who's having a giggle themselves, who's having a good
Yeah.
time. And so that's what I'm all about. I'm all about just trying new stuff out and not being too deep about it.
Well, if we can't laugh about ourselves, what can we do? Do you know what I'm saying? We can't
And
take
we're
ourselves
so
too serious. Yeah.
Absolutely. We've got so much in common, especially in a world and in
Yeah.
a time where politics, gets richer from trying to
Yeah.
separate us and see our differences.
Yeah.
I went up on stage with my Lynchfield prison shirt. At one point, I went up on with my t-shirt that says more blacks, more Irish, more dogs,
Love that.
And
Love that.
I was like, know your
Mm.
history, motherfuckers. Don't do what we're
Yeah.
doing over there in the States. Don't let them own you. Don't let them do that to you. So it was a great crowd. I was, from being from the South and becoming a Southie, I'm very proud
Mm.
to throw in the occasional
Absolutely.
in it and allow it, bruv.
Yeah. Awesome. So you're doing comedy at the moment. You're living in London. You're in sobriety. You've been a mother, and how's that been? Like, you know, like you said, you kind of like brushed over it a little bit. Like, oh, well, you know, I'm not one of them single mothers. Oh, things are. What was it like? What was it really like being a mum? You know, and I know it's a gift and everything, but you know, there has to be. Not there has to be. I'm sure it must have been difficult at times, like you said. You know, bringing up kids on your own in a different country. Even though you'd been here for a while,
Mm,
what
it's
was,
part of
you
it.
know, how did
It
you
was a
get through
learning
that?
curve. I think
Yeah.
it was more for me. It was more of a psychological learning curve because my ex-husband was a sociopath, and
Okay.
we didn't know, like, because if you don't know, you don't know. And he, in coming over, he went into the bathroom in the plane, and he came back somebody else. I can't describe that to anybody unless they've been through it. And you make excuses. You go, well, you know, he's moving to another country. We've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old that are freaking out on the plane. You know, like it's a stressful time. I'm sure he'll adjust. I'm sure he'll feel better. He shifted into another personality, and he was that was the the pre-story that to answer your
Okay.
question that, you know, I knew if these kids are only going to get one childhood, I wanted to make sure it was at least a good one.
Yeah.
And this personality that he came back, we were I was like, who are you? What did you drink the blue water back there? Like, what the fuck, man? I was like, okay. So very dark, very depressed, very, you know, he was freaked out about coming back and facing his parents and living here because, you know, now more was revealed,
Mm.
a lot more was revealed, and he was telling us loads of lies in Orlando that suited the personality he was pretending to be. And when we got over here, the shades were open, and we got to see a very unhappy camper that was on the brink of something. And then, when, of course, when we lost our son, he was just like, you know, not very toxic, very name calling, very eating up all the air in the room. And again, like, I've got no malice towards him. He was very unwell. I just thought, geez, so when he left, our apartment felt like it was 3 times bigger than it was. And
Wow.
I just got on with it. And my kids are just the coolest because they're AA babies, man. They drink like civilians. My daughter sends me pictures of her at the Alchemist with like
Yeah.
a big smoky bubble on her 12-pound cocktail. I just think it's great. I
Yeah.
think it's
It's
hysterical, but I
beautiful.
always go, but remember, you don't have winning DNA because your dad was
Yeah.
drunk and I was drunk and our parents were drunk. So just know
Yeah.
what your DNA is strapped around you. Like, be careful.
Yeah.
So they get it.
It's, you know, because I think sometimes when we're in recovery, sometimes we seem to put our addiction and our or even our recovery onto our kids,
Yeah.
and sometimes we get fearful for them, don't we? You know,
Oh
let them
yeah.
have fun. Yeah, let them have fun, man. They're young. They, you
You
know,
know,
let them
the
enjoy it.
most afraid I was for my kids is when, because my ex-husband, what his go-to was, he would go and adopt another woman and her kids, and he move in with them. And when that
Right.
wasn't conducive, so when you see shows like Love Fraud, you know, and
Yeah.
you see these characters, he was one, so I get it.
Okay.
So
Wow.
yeah, so he the kids were starting their GCSEs. We were just kind of coming out of the divorce, and they were doing really well. And my daughter was on Facebook and said, Dad's married some gal in Kansas. And then she said,
Wow.
he's married some gal in Greenwich. Like, do we have siblings? What's going on? Are we related to these people? Like, and I had a then 15-year-old and a 17-year-old crying because they didn't know
Wow.
what that made them. Who were they now that they discovered all this stuff on Facebook? And I just said, you know, that's the Jeremy Kyle show. That's got nothing to
Mm.
do with you guys. You're in the middle of making your lives happen. You're in the middle of, you know, of making your own path and creating your own futures. And I'm here to support you. I'm not going to watch that crap. It was on TV. I turned it off. I said, just, you know, I'm not saying turn it off. I'm saying if you want to stay friends with your dad on Facebook, if you want to watch all that, then, you know, I'll support you around that. But they chose not to, and they chose to well, my son Grady stays connected with them, and he says he's just always on it. I said, your dad's unwell, honey, but he loves you very much. That was
Yeah.
my go-to. Your dad's unwell, but he loves you very much. And then finally, when they've done very well. Grady's an audio visuals and a musician, and he streams and does all this stuff. And
Wow.
he's been streaming a lot of really big acts that have come into London. And he goes, when you say he wasn't well, what do you mean? And I said, well, he's got borderline personality disorder and sociopathy. And he was like, wow, I knew a girl who had that. She was all over the place. I was like, well, there you go. So yeah, nobody asks for that any more than they ask to be an addict or a drug addict. But I think there was definitely a line that I discovered. The big aha moment for me in life and recovery and everything was my dad passed away 3 years ago, and he was my empath, my go-to, my security. If I heard his voice, I just knew everything was going to be okay.
Mm.
He was a great dad and a really good shit and a funny guy, and always popping faces. When my mom was going off on one, my dad would be like, "Come on, let's go get a taco." So he was always having me giggle, even as a kid and as a teenager and adult. So I went to go say my goodbyes to him in June, in the 2018. He passed away in 2019, but he was in a nursing home, 91, very frail. And my mom was being looked after in the house, the family home, by a care staff. About 3 or 4 different gals were coming and going depending on their shifts. And I saw her without her Dorian gray mask, if you're about that story. And she was bossing the staff around. She was saying this one was wonderful and that one was horrible. And she was really, shit stirring, for lack of a better word, with the staff, that popped me into a little memory bubble. And I remembered her doing that to us as kids. And I was like, oh, so she's the personality disorder in my childhood that was making me attract these Charles Manson gorgeous folks
Yeah.
in my real life and in my romantic life. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to stop doing that. So when I saw what the core of it was and where the root of it came from, I had recovery again was there to say, offer her compassion, and I could offer her compassion, but her Alzheimer's was kicking in. The family, my other siblings, my 4 sisters and my brother got together, moved her out of the house into a nursing home, sold the home, and sold her, as she would call them, her
Mm.
goodies from the home. So it was called Mom's Keep or Toss. And they would put items up on WhatsApp and ask everyone if they wanted it. And I used a boundary. I politely said, no, thank you. I'm not great at WhatsApp groups the best of times, but I'm going to bow out. And the one thing I wanted was my dad's, he had a khaki zip up jacket that he used to put on when we would abscond on our adventures. And my sister, after 3 days after he passed away, she sold everything. She gave it all to Goodwill. So I said, I don't suppose there's a, beige jacket hanging up somewhere, and they found it. So they sent me the beige jacket, and I gave that to my son Grady, and I'm good.
Wow. Wow.
So I guess
Beautiful,
they've
man.
divvied up the rest of the funds. My mom's in a lovely nursing home in Lake Bluff, Illinois. And every time I call her, she says, have you spoken to your father today? Where is he? And is he going to come get me? So that puts you in the
Oh,
grief spiral again, so it's hard, but any NA, GA, OA, wherever you are, you learn that compassion for yourself finally. And then all of a sudden you're grown up and you can offer it in a painful situation to the person across from you. And that's been the big healing thing. That's been the
absolutely.
money for me.
Absolutely. How beautiful is that, eh? That we can show
Yeah.
up and turn up and, regardless, despite ourselves, despite our judgments and our
Yeah.
feelings around somebody, we still show up and we
Yeah.
do what's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, so going a little, so you're also a funeral virgin. I want to talk a little bit about the funeral virgin. Tell me what what is that you do, Liz? Because I'm really kind of
What the
yeah,
hell is a
interested.
virgin, right? Like we were both laughing
Yeah,
and go, what the hell? I didn't
yeah.
know
What
what the hell a
when
virgin
you
was.
said
This
to me, I
isn't
thought,
my
what
country.
is that? Like, I know something. Obviously, I had the thought that it was.
I was joking with you before. If you allow me to tell the same joke, I was like, if anything says assume the position, you can assume I'm not going to do it. I was ready to quit before I even knew what one was. And I had a friend
Yeah.
of mine, Father Bernard Schuneman, is over at St. Stephen's Church in Dillage, Darling. What? And
Mm.
he's like, listen, we've got this position. I think you'd be great for it. You've lost a child. You've gone through, some stuff. And he was very instrumental in he understood my recovery. And so I said, well, I would love to start a women's meeting at your church. So wink, wink, nudge, nudge, know what I mean? Which I'm proud to say is still going strong because I do really
Wow.
love that church. It's a diamond in the rough. It's not one of these churches that have been like gutted out and next cataloged into beige
Yeah.
pews. It still has that earthy sort of, it's a high Anglican church. And being an old Catholic, I fit in just fine. And they said, well, basically you get there an hour before the funeral. You lays with the funeral company. They'll tell you, when it's supposed to kick off. I even ring the bell. I'm very glad you know. That's like my favorite
Wow.
part. And you want to make sure you're wearing strong underwire bras when you ring that bell, otherwise that sucker's gonna fly right off. Woo! And so I wear this like Westminster robe, and I'm out there doing my little gong in the bell, and I prepare the music for the family, and the orders of service are handed in. And every single funeral, I can tell when the drunk in the family walks in because their shame comes with them, or the drug addict, or whatever. And I go, you know what? It's cool. It's good. I did you know where you wanted to seat? Doesn't matter whether you sit on the right or the left. There's no protocol. I just want you to feel at home. And that is me in my community paying it forward. I wanted to, sorry to sound so Oprah today, woo, but I wanted to pay it forward for my son who is in heaven, hopefully,
Yeah.
giving me the upgrades of the jacuzzi and the Hawaiian views when I get up there. And now my dad or whoever's crossed over, I just light a candle for them when I've got that space for an hour. But selfishly, I've heard some amazing music and amazing performances. The King's College Hospital have done performances there for people to help them cross over. And I need to hear, depending on where I'm in my recovery and in my life, I need to hear, hey, look, there's loads of rooms. Just do your
Mm.
job here, do the best you can. And I just look out this window. It's a really beautiful stained glass window, and I sit in the back and I just say my little sobriety prayers and light my candle and hopefully send that person on to the next side. I believe there's too much going on the other
Absolutely.
side for that not to be true.
Amazing, Lizzie, amazing. It's kind of mad, like sometimes I think, we're positioned in places in the world for
Oh, for
reasons.
sure.
Like what you spoke about, you being in doing the church, doing the funeral virgil, and you can always kind of see the person that comes in, that's the alcoholic or the drug addict, and you can see the shame come in, and you're kind of there for them, I suppose, in some way, as much as the family. You know what I mean?
Oh, completely. I mean, there's a prisoner,
Mm,
God bless him. He's come in with bricks in prison. I've done, loads of shares over there for AA anyway. And he comes in handcuffs. Depending on who's handling him that day, he's lost two sisters and his mother. So we've seen each
wow.
other quite a lot, sadly, for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
But the first crew that brought him in, we're just going to hold him in his handcuffs, make him stand in the back. And so I'm like, excuse me, excuse me. I'm like, hey, Dennis, you want to come up front with me? And he kind of looked at his handler and they were like, oh, no, that won't be necessary. And I'm like, yeah, it is. So
Wow.
I just grabbed his hand and sat him in the very front. And I said, if with your permission, I'd be honored to light a candle for your mom. And
Yeah.
he was like, yes, thank you. Because that could be me. We could so easily be in each other's shoes right then. He could be the funeral verger and I could be sitting with the police in handcuffs on the couch saying goodbye or anywhere. And I never ever forget that. And my kids know that. Like we're in Brixton, there's a couple of drunks like acting up, you know what I mean? They're in there like throwing their cans and quoting Chaucer because we're not stupid, us drunks and drug addicts.
No.
And my daughter, who's now 14, I think she was about 10 then, she goes, hey mom, they've got the same disease you do. And I go, yeah. She goes, well, why don't they just go to a meeting? And I go, because it doesn't happen till it happens, honey. And she's like, yeah, I
Mm,
guess. And I go
beautiful.
until they want it, they get in there and they get the spider webs cleared, and then the work
Definitely.
starts.
And so, like you said, sometimes we're positioned in places where we're welcome them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's nothing
Yeah.
we see, not even a little bird in a
Mm,
tree or a silly goofy cat or kid or
yeah.
dog or anything where I don't say thank you, because I'm just so
Yeah.
glad to be here, man. Like I know even Bernard makes fun of me, the vicar at the church, because
Mm,
I sit in the back of the funerals and I'm smiling away,
mm,
like I'm listening to a comedy radio show behind but I'm not. I'm just so glad to be chosen to still be here for that
definitely.
day. We don't know when it's going to come. And
Mm,
I've had, my daughter was hit by a car, fractured skull. I didn't think we were going to get through that. And some scary shit I had to go through, that we go through. This life is scary, man.
yeah.
Sometimes it's pretty great, and sometimes it really asks you to be present. And luckily she survived. She was home with amazing neurological team at King's College Hospital. I've lost a child there and I've gotten a child back. And
Wow.
she now is with the big boys down in the Met. She's an investigative researcher for the Met, so she does all the graphs
Wow.
to catch the bad guys. And there's 55-year-old seasoned vets called Stu, who we love, who's sitting there next to her and helping her along. And she's
Wow.
great. She's funny and she's sharp and she's, doing her deal.
Absolutely amazing.
Very proud of all
So
my
you should
babies.
be. I'm sure you are. And so you should be. So, Liz,
Sir,
to our viewers, anybody listening here, maybe the young Lizzy, what could you say to her?
it's all going to be all right. And you don't have to have a plan. Let it
Brilliant.
unfold. Keep it in the minute. Keep going. And one of my signs, believe in the signs, yo. If your cat's talking to you, you're on drugs. That's not the sign. But in Orlando, it was fireworks. And every time I was about to go relapse or grab a beer or go to the Outback Steakhouse, my friends would go, "You never would have drank when you were pregnant." Yes, I would have. They'd go, "Oh, you never would. You would. You don't know. You don't know my illness. My illness wants me down and dusted." And every time I was just about to relapse, a bunch of fireworks would go off. And just about when I was driving to my rehab to try and go in and get there on time, a bunch of fireworks would go afterwards. And I'd say, "God, show me a sign. Am I an addict? Am I an alcoholic?" I was like, "Bow, bow, bow, bow." Not a bigger sign you need.
Yeah.
And so I'd pull over on the side of the road. And my friend Jason, who works up there, he goes, "Oh, you were behind SeaWorld. They do their electric light laser show at 7:30 every night. That's why you saw that." And I go, "No, I know I saw that."
Bless you.
So yeah, every once in a while there's fireworks saying that I'm on the right path. Keep going.
Yeah. So listen out for the fireworks, anybody. That's what we're saying. Yeah? Whatever your
Keep looking
fireworks
up.
might be. Yeah. Whatever your fireworks might be.
We're
Listen,
not a
Liz,
is the beginning. That's not
absolutely
the definition
amazing
of
to
what we
have you
can
on
do.
here.
People are doing their thing, man, and we are comedians, we are painters, we are actors and actresses, and Tony Hopkins and Russell Brand, and you don't have an opinion about these things, but know that they're your family. And Robin Williams for me was my touchstone to somebody who inspired me. I mean, these people are there because they don't talk about their struggle, but they've been there. They've done the same things we've gotten through, and they've cherished life.
Absolutely.
So that's why I love seeing you and Karen so happy. When I say that, it's not some sort of Instagram post, smiley face, cheese, schmaltzy shit. You guys are doing the deal, and I couldn't love you both more for it.
Yeah, we're crazy as shit. We're crazy as shit. We don't take ourselves too serious.
And may it never change, honey. Just get better.
So, Liz, once again, thank you so much for coming on here. And it's absolutely inspiring to listen to you and kind of get to know you a little bit more. And your energy is absolutely. Karen said to me, "Listen, because I've never really had a proper conversation with you," and Karen has, and Karen said to me, "You will love Lizzy. She's absolutely a star, an angel on the earth, as they would say." Yeah, you bring so much good energy.
Kind. I'll take that. I'll take it on today and
take it, hold it, wear the badge, get the T-shirt. Soul said that I am an angel on earth. Wow. Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm Mama Bear.
Yep.
There's Brady, Bonnie Rose, Murphy, Faith, and the dog Gladys Knight.
Oh,
he's right there.
You are a star. Thank you.
Thank you
so much, Liz. Thank you. And we will catch up very soon.
Yeah, definitely. In real life.
Definitely. So to all of you that are listening, listen, hit the share, hit the like, subscribe, share it away, listen to Lizzy's story. What an absolutely inspirational star. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the treat. Love you, honey.
Yo, what's happening, people? I want to welcome you to Flip the Script podcast show. My name is Sol and I am the host. So, on this show, you'll get the opportunity to listen to some inspiring people talking about real, honest, heartfelt, no holds barred transformation stories. We get to hear from ex-drug users, reformed criminals, all sharing their personal stories and how they manage not only to turn their lives around, but now are helping others to do the same. We also get to hear from courageous men and women sharing their experience of surviving high-level trauma and what they are doing or done to start that much-needed healing process. They say that life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forward. On this show, we get to understand what that actually means. Everyone's got a story, but not everyone gets to share theirs. So remember, hit the subscribe button, press like, so we can continue to spread the message that change is possible even in the darkest of places.